This video will be a reply to a question I received recently. Here's the question. Why are so many of my feelings so painful? I often feel uncomfortable in the world. I'm not a negative person, personality-wise, but I often feel a lot of pain in me, anxiety, and so forth. And I wondered, if there is no self here, why does this flood this personal experience? Concern, self-doubt, etc. Here's my reply. First and foremost, I want to express my perspective that a question like this has no existential ultimate answer. It can't be traced back to the cause of the event without ending up at the idea of the Big Bang. Everything is the cause of everything. Carl Sagan said, if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. So we truly cannot understand or know why suffering appears. And on the other hand, within the context of the appearance of subject and object, there can be a noticing of the patterns of society, human nature, how DNA and circumstances seem to affect our body and mind, and how they react. That which we call knowing can only be in the realm of this relative, pragmatic truth. The spontaneous, wild, and free expression of feeling hunger pains and deciding to make a sandwich without the existential angst of needing to know who there is to make it. In the dream, there is infinite practical knowledge that can arise to meet the needs and desires of these beings, ways to cope, ways to comfort and care for these bodies. They are all valid, even addiction. The state that feels like I am doing this can always randomly arise, and it never means that there is actually someone doing something. This is utterly free to play as the relative cannot be escaped. Who would escape it? What seems to be is all there is. Now again the question. I wonder, if there is no self here, why does this uncomfortable anxiety flood this personal experience? Since we cannot answer this question in a meaningful way, without a delusional fantasy, it may be advantageous to investigate this question on a meta level, and not in the way that we have learned to strategize and ponder on such inquiries. Here are some definitions of the word meta. Something that is meta is self-aware, self-referential, or comments on its own subject or features, often in a way that transcends its original limits or context. Meta can also mean breaking the conventional storytelling norms or expectations. The word beyond or prior can be synonyms for meta. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we use to create them. We can, with openness, notice that the question itself is based on many assumptions that are assumed to be known. I will list some here. We assume I can understand on an existential level beyond pragmatism. I don't prefer this, and something can be done about that. I know what no self looks like. I know what this should look like. If I understand properly, I can change this. This innocent and quite understandable question is based on comparison and expectations. It's utterly natural for our questions to come from this place, and there is nothing at all wrong with it. It's valid, and I remember what it's like to believe that there is only this one tool called understanding, with the power to control this human experience. But true wisdom means seeing that there is no knowing. And wise men say, comparison is the thief of joy, and peace begins when expectations end. If there is no knowing, and the questions are insoluble, then what can be done? Well, practically speaking, we can feel the futility for the first time, viscerally, without the extra dread of knowing that it shouldn't be this way. We can lean into the hopelessness that makes up what we call reality. We can recognize that which we have avoided seeing. We can look boldly into the face of death, and into it the image is our own reflection. With openness, brutal honesty, and courage, we can relax into the last place we wanted to look. We can melt into the unknowable bliss of a live existential terror. We can see that there was truly never anything to do but this. Nowhere to go but here. Nothing that says suffering shouldn't express freely as it does. This is the death of arrogance, the transmutation of all memory into innocence. And and it's the equivalent of an apple falling from a tree. It isn't right or wrong, but it can naturally be gleaned beyond the fog of knowing. We can lose interest in the desperate moaning of the analyzing thought forms and look closely at the mechanism of their arising. Asking why I suffer makes as much sense as asking a butterfly why it's orange instead of purple. Using thought itself to kill the belief in thought, to recognize its inherent primordial emptiness. And this is a simple, effortless noticing, not a doing or a thinking. And doing and thinking is always free to express, even with the noticing. We don't ask the birds to be quiet so we can inquire. We don't expect them to. And we don't give meaning to their beautiful songs that sing of striving and surviving and perpetuating. Without the meaning, the bird song is a miracle. Where does it come from? This is noticing of the survival mechanism itself, and no longer what it's going on about, which has taken itself to be the end-all, be-all of autonomy and control. We have heard all the stories ad infinitum, to the point of nausea. We see that the content of mind just isn't where the answers lie. So we begin to lose interest. Our zooming lens refocuses away from the content of mental chatter and more to the context, the prior, the space that allows thoughts. This is the backward step. It's presence, and it allows all to come and go, like clouds in the sky. Just notice. It can't be gained, or allowed, or escaped. See that allowing is already. Whether there is an experience of selfing or not, preferred or not, it's all there is. No matter the texture and flavors it plays as. And here we can see that there is no thinker of thoughts, no doer of actions. That is only ever a thought. there can be a curious spaciousness for the nakedness of the self to be recognized, for the robe of expectation and comparison to fall, for the crown of knowing to be melted down into its base form of golden aliveness. This is what is left when you are too exhausted to keep up the act. Simply what is. All there ever could be. Pristine as it ever was. Untouched by time and space. Wildly all-inclusive of all potential expression. Already. All there is this. Its name is every sound. We can call it relative or absolute, but those are just seeming separate sounds made of the same thisness, not two. It's too now to know. It's too everything to find. This is freedom from liberation. This is free for what appears to play as it does. Not freedom from what appears. Who is there to avoid this chaos? Liberation is only a thought. What is this without that thought?